Jonathan,
Kirsten, welcome aboard. Sorry I missed you last time. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Ethan.
all right. I think I'll give it just a moment and then we can get started. All right. I'm seeing all directors present. And with that, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded. And Jonathan, can you call the roll?
Director Brandt?
Here.
Director Freeman?
Here.
Director Geist? I don't think he's here. Director Bertrand?
Here, and Director Geist is here too.
Oh, I didn't see him. Oh, there he is. Director Geist is here. Director Flaherty?
Here.
And Director Aguilar?
Here.
And Director Deschler?
Hello, here.
Got everyone.
All right. Before we begin, oh, I'm sorry, I lost my place and I lost the agenda. Sorry about that. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Aniscoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. So with that, we'll move to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items they wish to pull? All right, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
All right, there's been a motion made to approve the consent agenda by Bertrand, seconded by Freeman. Is there any public comment?
I would like to make one if possible.
Gina, is this public comment on the consent agenda or general public comment?
A general one.
Okay, we'll go to general public comment in just a second.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, then with that at the board, want to do a roll call vote?
Yes. Director Brandt?
Yes.
Director Freeman?
Yes.
Director Geist? Director Flaherty?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Bertrand?
Yes.
And Director Deschler?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. So now we're going to enter the public comment period. This is the time for any member of the public to speak on any matters that are not on the agenda tonight. So first, I'm going to go over to you, Gina.
Thank you. Good evening, directors. My name is Gina, and I am a volunteer with Food Not Bombs Isla Vista. I visit People's Park on a weekly basis to serve food and check in with our houseless neighbors who live there. Since the closure of Aniscoyo Park, my friends have been suffering a lack of resources, outreach, and access to basic services that I'm hoping you'll be able to help me fix. First, people are struggling to stay connected as there is extremely limited internet and electricity access in the park. The solar table is frequently dysfunctional, the Pardal Center is still closed, and the outlets at the community center have been restricted by Good Samaritan. Without reliable electricity and internet, people can't stay connected, and they're having a hard time accessing the resources that are available, like their stimulus money and applications for housing or jobs. In addition, the people living in the park have no access to trash services. The dumpster closest to them is fenced off. People's garbage is piling up, causing unintentional pollution. I'm also gravely concerned about the mental and physical health of these folks. Several are experiencing mental health issues that I've raised to the county. I'm disheartened by the lack of outreach done since the AO Park closure, seeing that moving everyone into a dense, flooded spot was bound to cause severe stress. People may argue that the folks in People's Park don't have to stay there, but at this point, with all of the parks closed, there's really nowhere else for them to go. There was a weeks-long waiting list for the tiny homes. Many have moved into IV from other more brutal and unlivable cities, including downtown Santa Barbara, where they were constantly nagged by the police. Many have moved into the woods, further isolated from resources and social ties, making it harder and harder for them to ever get back on their feet. I don't blame the CSD solely for any of these issues, and I realize that you don't have the power alone to solve these problems. I just ask that you use your collaborations with UCSB, RPD, the county, Good Samaritan, and other community partners to provide the absolute basics for those sleeping outside. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gina. And I think we'll have a report on COVID-19 later on the agenda where we may be able to speak a little bit about our houseless neighbors. Thank you. Any other comments from members of the public on items not on the agenda tonight? I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Everyone, what a lovely evening. My name is Mark, he, him, his. Some of you may know me. I wanted to bring up the fact that it's going to be raining pretty substantially with a significant amount of winds here in Santa Barbara. And I bring this up not because I just love weather, although I do. I bring this up because when we see these two combination of factors, we see eucalyptus trees blow down. And I'm really proud of the work that former Senator Austin Foreman and I worked with Vice Chancellor McPherson to start a process of removal of eucalyptus trees on the UC Santa Barbara campus. But I have yet to see sort of any momentum on that issue within private or public areas within Isla Vista. And I recognize that some of it is outside of the scope of the actual jurisdiction of this board. But I think one of the best things about this special district is it's there as a representative voice for this area. And I'd love to see more done on that, especially in light of the weather and more trees potentially falling down and hurting people and hurting property. That's it for me. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you, Mark, for your comments. Are there any other comments from members of the public on items not on the agenda? All right, then with that, we'll close the public comment period and we'll go to the first item on our agenda, which is public health officer order violations. Director Bertrand.
Thank you. I'm going to recuse myself from this item due to my employment at the County of Santa Barbara. I'll be back for the rest of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. So I asked for this item to be placed on the agenda to receive an update regarding the enforcement of the public health order. And when we put it on the agenda, I don't think that we could have anticipated the events of yesterday when the governor decided pretty abruptly to lift the stay-at-home order. So I know that's going to color a little bit of our discussion today, but I think this is still incredibly relevant. You know, this has been a really tough week for our community. During the past 2 weekends, we've seen an uptick in large gatherings. We have also seen the highest prevalence of COVID-19 in our community than at any other point during the pandemic. Yesterday, we hit an all-time high, 107 active infectious cases in our community. That's more than at any other point during the pandemic. And today at the Board of Supervisors, Dr. Vondo Reynoso reported that Isla Vista is the only community in all of Santa Barbara County where the case rate is actually increasing rather than decreasing. I think likely a large factor in this is that there is unfortunately a small group of residents that continue to host these large gatherings. I mentioned I went down to the beach and out to the streets of Isla Vista during a past Saturday and was really concerned with what I saw. So we put this item on the agenda really to use this as an opportunity just to hear from our partners in law enforcement, from UC Santa Barbara, and potentially receive a report on what is happening too with some of our property providers as we think about how we can ensure that there is good behavior happening in the community. Unfortunately, those that are not complying, and I do believe it is a very small number of people, the vast majority of folks, I think, are trying their very best to stay healthy during this scary time. But unfortunately, those that small group of people are putting everyone's health at risk. They're putting the entire community's health at risk. And they're jeopardizing our ability to reopen our small businesses, our restaurants, and get the students in our community who are in elementary, middle school, and high school the ability to go back to school. So with that, I just want to, I guess, open up the process and ask if we can get a little bit of an update on just safety in the community regarding this from our partners. And I don't know if there's any that would like to start out. I see Lieutenant Millard has his camera on, so I'll go over to you.
How are you doing? Thank you, and it's good to see everyone. You know, I think countywide and with everyone, we're processing, dealing with everything the best we can. I think that law enforcement, with reports coming in, has seen an uptick in activity in Isla Vista, and we're all working cooperatively with each other to address some of these issues and give out some of those education pieces. Just today, I was trying to get another round of and do what UCPD has done before and pass out hundreds and hundreds of masks. So I'm trying to get some more masks for us to go back out there and pass masks out and try to give some more educational opportunities to folks that may be, you know, not interested in it or not complying, and try to get that compliance. That's what's going to help us all out in the long run. So from our end, we're staying in tune with everything and talking it out of how we're going to approach it and helping out the community of Isla Vista.
Thank you for that, Lieutenant Millard. And do we have someone from the Sheriff's Office who can share?
Good evening, Spencer. How you doing? This is Juan Camarena.
Thanks, Juan. Good to hear from you. You can go ahead.
So from the Ivy Foot Patrol perspective, early on, we did a lot of education. We took an education stance. And about 2 weeks ago, we increased our enforcement, less education and more enforcement, and especially the weekend you were talking about. We start doing more enforcement, and we are writing citations and documenting different incidents and sending them to the district attorney. The way we are enforcing, it could be complicated in a sense that if parties happen inside the house, we really don't have the authority just to go in and barge in people's homes and see who lives there and see who doesn't live there and see if they're doing social distancing. The way we take action is if we get a phone call of a complaint of a loud party or large gathering, that gives us the authority to go and investigate to see if there's any violation of the health order. If we don't get any calls, then it makes it very difficult for us to know that there's a party going on inside a house. However, if we're walking down the street and we see a large gathering, and by large, you know, it makes it very difficult. We usually try to use a rule of thumb, 20 plus people, you know, and also we take in consideration the property. If it's just one apartment that we know it only could fit 7 people or 7 residents, and there's 20 residents, obviously that gives us the reasonable suspicion that they might be violating the health order. But let's say it's a bigger property, it makes it very hard for us. We'll go ahead and make contact and try to ascertain or get information of who lives there. But it's very difficult for us to determine that they all live there. So we're usually taking the word of the residents that they all live there, and we take that opportunity to educate them in regards to the health order violation. Now, if we're walking down and we see egregious, obvious, there's 100 plus people, then our stance right now is we make contact with the host and we will issue a citation for violation of the health order to the host of the party. In addition, educate everyone else at the party about the health order, and then break out or have everybody be done with the party.
Thank you for that update, Lieutenant Camarena. And I'm not sure if we have anyone from UCSB or a property provider, but maybe Jonathan, I know if you want to share a little bit of update, some of the discussions that you've been on about developments.
I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything to present something right now off the cuff. So
Okay.
I don't want to speak off incorrectly.
Okay, not a problem. I don't know if there's anyone else that wants to comment, or if anyone has questions for Lieutenant Camarena or Lieutenant Millard from our board.
Spencer, it's Deputy Schroeder. I'll just comment real quick from the ground level. I've been working with you guys for years now, and this pandemic has been really tough on everybody. But as I've preached my entire time out here, I really want to respect everybody's rights, of course, and privacy. And this has been a really tough issue for us because pre-COVID, we didn't want to go and shut down people's parties because it could be a violation of their civil rights. And same with post-COVID. I know we're in a pandemic, but we're also not out there able to violate people's rights. So we're doing our best. We really are trying, but it's a really tough thing on the ground. So we're doing our best to work with you guys, but post-pandemic, we also don't want to be looked at as being heavy-handed again. So tough.
Thank you for those comments, Deputy Schroeder. So if there are no questions from the board, maybe it'd be a good idea for us to open up. I do see a hand from Director Freeman.
So at the Board of Supervisors a while back, I might be misremembering, but I was under the impression that a process had been put into place such that instead of it being law enforcement that was being looked at as enforcement for these matters, that would instead be public health officers. And so I'm wondering if how that's been working, if that's actually been happening. So far in this conversation, we've only been hearing from law enforcement as far as enforcement. So.
Yeah, that is a great question, Jay. And I know from the information that we were provided was particular from law enforcement, I think, and didn't necessarily cover that aspect of it, but that's a great point. And for the board and for the public, I did end up attaching to this agenda item the presentation that the Board of Supervisors received about that process back in October when it was passed. And I was under a similar impression, Director Freeman, that process would be in place. My understanding is the ordinance went into effect in early December. I think now is a good time to open it up for public comment. Any members of the public would like to speak on this item or regarding COVID enforcement and law enforcement or otherwise? I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
The record show I let other people go first, so I'm not the only one speaking here. I really appreciate what the two lieutenants and Deputy Schroeder have said, but I guess I'm a little bit saddened by the lack of I guess creativity on this issue, and namely, y'all developed a restorative justice program, or excuse me, the community justice program regarding the noise ordinance, and I don't see why we can't use a very similar method with these issues. And I think and maybe you think I mean kind of like force people to go into a program or else they get a fine, but why don't you just invite people? You know, if you have someone who's breaking a rule or who's having a super large engagement on their property, inviting someone to a Zoom that is just like the restorative justice program that you have existing, but instead of talking about the noise ordinance or about public intoxication, talking about COVID, like to me, that seems like community-centered policing. And that seems like it might actually be effective because, I mean, it's not like most Isla Vista residents, even the ones who are breaking the rules, don't know about COVID. But I think they just need to have a conversation. And to me, that could be this great method. But yeah, it just seems like you talk to them at their front door, issue them a ticket from the county. It just doesn't feel like much, and it doesn't feel very creative or tailored to this community.
I hear what you're saying, Mark, and I would agree with you. I think that I had a meeting with our community outreach team just yesterday, and I did bring that exact point up that you just mentioned, of maybe looking at a way of how it could fit into something like that. Of course, that's going to be in partnership with the Sheriff's Department. I'm happy you said it because it was really in its infancy for us. I literally just talked about that yesterday and seeing if something like that could fit during this time and how, you know, the approval process for a violation such as that could fit. So you're right on target with the same thinking that I had yesterday. But I just today I didn't get the opportunity to take that step and talk further about it, but thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you for those comments, Mark. Are there any other comments from members of the public? I see a hand from Kirsten. I'm going to let other members of the public go first before we go back to the board. And so I see a hand from Alexa. Alexa, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alexa. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a community member of Isla Vista, student at UCSB. I had a comment or a question for this sort of area, the gray area of fraternities and sororities with UCSB versus the Isla Vista community. So I personally happen to live across from one of the fraternities that's part of the Interfraternity Council, ZVT. And there was an incident, or over the fall quarter of UCSB, there were a number of incidents where they had gatherings. And I understand what the lieutenants were saying, that it can be difficult, especially with a large household, to try and gauge, are these people actually living at this household or not? For me personally, I recognized that after the winter break, where no one was living at that house, and I know that because I was living at my apartment for the entire time. I didn't choose to travel over the winter break for Christmas or any other holiday. No one was living at that house, and then everyone came back immediately and immediately began to have an outdoor party with girls also present who clearly do not live at that house because it's a fraternity exclusive house. There was at least 30 people, if not more. And I understand that in order for there to be enforcement, there would have had to have been a call, but I attempted to submit a report to the Office of Student Life and Office of Student Conduct, and I haven't received any answers. And I feel like that's an interesting gray area because it's on official fraternity property, and there are official members of this campus-oriented or campus-like associated organization, but the property is in Isla Vista, and the enforcement, I believe, could fall under a gray area.
Thank you for those comments, Alexa. And I'll just say we might be neighbors. I think we live pretty close to each other. So I appreciate you bringing that forward, and hopefully we can potentially look into that, get some answers in the future.
Spencer, just real quick, that incident in that household, along with numerous other incidents involving UCSB, have been reported to the campus. I got emails back and forth that the disposition of those cases is not reported to law enforcement or to the general public. The university handles that privately. And so it's very possible that action was taken on that. And we just don't know about it because they don't report that back to us. So I don't think nothing is happening. We just don't hear about it. And then just real quick on Mark's comment, I think it's a great program. Like I said, I I started the restorative justice, and so a program like Mark brought up would be great. I just don't know if law enforcement's the right tool for that, and so possibly you folks at the CSD could partner up and we could work on something like that. I think it's great.
Thank you for that, Deputy Schroeder. Are there any other comments from members of the public? All right, I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to close the public comment period and bring it back to the board. And I know Director Deschler, you were very eager a couple moments ago, so I'll go over to you.
I'm sorry, I forget I'm not a member of the public anymore. I apologize. I wanted to make the comment that I think there's a lot of value in bringing up kind of a status update on where we are on enforcement, on education, on what each of the entities is doing in terms of the pandemic and trying to lower the number of gatherings and cases in Isla Vista. And I think to do that, we really need to hear from the county. We heard from IV Foot Patrol. I think that's awesome. And I think also from student affairs, because I think there is a lot of creativity going on. And I think there's a very good process, I think, of communication between IV Foot Patrol and UCSB student affairs. And I think that would be valuable for the public to hear about that. I can tell you that there is an issue of student privacy, and it's called FERPA. It's a law that governs student privacy. So our student affairs and UCSB can't report on individual cases that go through the student conduct process, but there are cases going through the student conduct process that have directly come out of situations that have been reported from IV Foot Patrol to student affairs. So I do think there's value in hearing from student affairs, and perhaps that can be something that we agendize. And I also think Jay made a really good point. The county passed an administrative fine ordinance, and they did that as a way to take out law enforcement per se, or create a different pathway of enforcement and administrative process as opposed to a law enforcement process. And they did that saying that was easier and more expeditious to get things for people to get fined. But I don't know if that's being implemented, and I don't know if Lieutenant Camarina can speak to that or Deputy Schroeder, but I think there's value in having the county report back to us as to that fine being, that administrative fine ordinance being utilized. Those are my comments.
Thank you. This is Deputy Schroeder. I'll just comment real quick on the last point there. I attended the training that the county put on for those administrative fines. It is a great idea and a great concept. Unfortunately, the way they have that geared is it has to be basically an on-view offense. And so the county employee that would issue that administrative fine would have to witness it happening. Well, it just so happens that most of those county employees work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And that is not necessarily when the violations are occurring. And so we're kind of in this limbo. At least I didn't comment a lot in that meeting, but the proper county staff that is now trained to issue those citations is not working at the time that the citations would be issued. So I think that needs to be fixed.
Thank you for that, Deputy Schroeder. Are there other comments or questions from the board?
No, but we are more than happy to prepare an agenda item and invite people ahead of time for the next board meeting to have a fuller discussion.
Excellent. I think that would be a great idea. I know just from hearing from residents, the level of concern I think is higher than it's been at any point during the pandemic. And I appreciate your comments, Director Deschler, about bringing together what is being done at student affairs and potentially the county as well. I know that they have, well, I don't know that they have been able to levy discipline because of the privacy concerns that you mentioned, but I know that they have been working on this. And I also know one of the things that has been brought to their attention is that they're unable to discipline students if they do not know who those students are. And so while I think the community got together and did a really good thing by really vigorously reporting a lot of the gatherings that they were seeing with photographs and submitting that to the county and UCSB's violation form. Unfortunately, I think the frustration is that not a very high percentage of those are being held to account, and there is a feeling that there is no accountability. And our education, I think, has taken us, through this pandemic somewhat well, but unfortunately, looking at the numbers, it's just clear that at this point, what we're doing is not working. So I think that it would be great if we could bring back an item and maybe set up an overview of what all our partners are doing on this important issue. Director Deschler.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is more that needs to be done. I would push back on you. I agree that there is seems to be an impression in the community that action isn't being taken. And I think that I would disagree with that, and only because just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean something's not happening. And the challenge as for the university is that because of FERPA law, we cannot release individual data on violations. That's violating a student's right to privacy. So it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge.
Absolutely. That is a point that is well taken. Are there any other board member comments or questions on this issue? All right, I do see we have another hand at public comment, so I'll reopen it briefly. Alexa, do you want to make another comment?
Oh, I just wanted to respond to Ms. Deschler that I appreciate that nuance that you're trying to strike with, student privacy and different issues like that. A thought that had come to mind personally, just because the issue I had raised was specifically for fraternities and sororities and members of those organizations who are living at those houses. Not that those names would need to be released publicly, but rather for an accountability standpoint, that there should be record of those individuals. And if gatherings are being held at official households, not even like satellite households, but the official organization's building, that could be a method for accountability. I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn because I didn't realize that the public comment period for that was over. But I appreciate the work you're doing, and of course, everyone else who's working on this issue. It is very nuanced, and your input is appreciated.
Thank you for your comments, Alexa. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion if someone wants to direct staff to bring this item back with a report from our partners. If no one,
George would always just say "so moved." Can I just say "so moved"?
You can.
Okay.
All right. That's moved by Freeman. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, and seconded by Aguilar. So with that, Jonathan, can you read it back to us, and then we can go to a vote.
You're on mute, Jonathan.
Oops, my bad. The motion I put down is motion to direct staff to bring back an agenda item on COVID-19 response in Isla Vista.
And I think a report from our partners on what they're doing in regards to COVID safe behavior accountability.
No, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Wait, sorry, Deborah. Yes, it's all good.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, a report from partners on COVID accountability is what you were saying?
Yes, that's right. So can you read it back to us and then we'll take it to a vote?
Yeah, a motion to direct staff to bring back an agenda item on COVID-19 response in Isla Vista with the report from partners on COVID accountability.
All right, let's go to roll call vote.
Brandt,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Geis, Flaherty,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
and Deschler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thanks for everyone for your input on this. All right. And then the next item we have on the agenda is the Isla Vista Foot Patrol Community Safety Update, which I think in some ways ties into what we were just talking about. I'll hand it over to whoever wants to introduce this, Lieutenant or Jonathan.
Yeah, we just got the request from Director Deschler to have an update on safety issues in the community, and I invited Lieutenant Camarena to join us tonight to share on those issues. And thank you for coming, Lieutenant. And please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening, everyone. Because we have new directors, I'm just going to do a quick just overview, kind of public safety updates. First, IV Foot Patrol. IV Foot Patrol is a sheriff's station. It's comprised of deputies and UCPD officers. When UCPD officers are assigned to the Foot Patrol, they work under the sheriff's command. In other words, they work under my command, and they work with sheriff's deputies and sheriff supervisors, but also UCPD supervisors also work with our sheriff's supervisors. The station commander is myself, Lieutenant Juan Camarena. The station is always going to have a station commander, and is going to be a lieutenant with the sheriff's office. Isla Vista is about 1 square mile, is the primary jurisdiction of the sheriff's office, meaning that any crime that occurs in Isla Vista is the responsibility of the sheriff's office to investigate, unless the crime occurs on UCSB property. Pre-COVID, the overall crime was down. Restorative justice program that Deputy Shorter spearheaded was gaining momentum. It was actually working. And we were working with IVCSD on the Deltopia Festival. That was going to be the first year that IVCSD was going to sponsor a festival in a way to try to prevent partying from happening in Del Playa. Then March 2020, COVID decided to visit us. Campus closed and the majority of the community left Isla Vista. UCPD officers assigned to the IV Foot Patrol were reassigned to the campus. The IV Foot Patrol station was closed, and Isla Vista became a patrol beat for the sheriff's office. On April 2020, we noticed an increase of homeless individuals at the parks. And we also noticed the crime in Isla Vista began to increase. We then determined that we needed to open the IV Foot Patrol station. And in August, I believe August 14, 2020, we opened the Isla Vista Foot Patrol station again. The first week of December 2020, deputies deployed Narcan 4 times. That was in a 3-day period. It was 4 Narcan deployments. And also in September, approximately 90% of the community returned back to Isla Vista. And we started having gatherings, partying. At that time, our stance was education on the health order violations and try to convince or persuade the young community to social distance, wear a mask, and be good neighbors. Approximately 2 weeks ago, we began increasing our enforcement on health order violations. We went from less education and more enforcement. And every citation or report that is written, it has been forwarded to the district attorney for review and prosecution. During last year, 2020, mostly towards the end of the year, a couple significant cases. The first one was in November of 2020. A male subject, they came from Fresno, decided to visit Isla Vista, and went to the beach area off, I believe it's Camino Mallorca and Del Playa, and decided to fire several shots with his handgun off the beach axis. The subject was arrested, and ever since, he has not returned to Isla Vista. In mid-December last month, a male adult was driving recklessly in Isla Vista. IV Foot Patrol did a traffic stop, and during that traffic stop, they discover approximately 20 plus guns in the vehicle with ammunition. Further follow-up, they discover more weapons in his vehicle. I'm sorry, in his house in Goleta. And right now, we're just hoping that COVID, it's how to say, is history or becomes history. So what we're looking for is to keep building partnerships, and those partnerships that we have now, to build them stronger. There are several challenges that we're facing now, especially with the enforcement of large gatherings. There's a lot of different challenges there because we just can't go into people's homes, just like Deputy Shorter said earlier. But by working together with the different community and different partnerships in Isla Vista, I think we're going to be able to get a good handle on this COVID violations. And pretty much that's what I have as a just a quick overview of the safety in Isla Vista, unless Deputy Shorter wants to add anything else, or Lieutenant Millar, or if you guys have any other questions.
All right, well, hearing nothing else, thank you for that update, Lieutenant Camarena, on safety in our community. And I see a hand from Director Deschler. I'll go over to her.
Is this the time that we ask questions, or
Yeah.
did you skip that time?
Absolutely, that's correct.
Okay. Sure, I have to really pay attention because things were happening fast. So I want thank you for that update. It's really helpful to kind of hear how you're structured and the ramp up in crime. Did you say that the number of students increased dramatically in December 2020? Is that, did you say that?
No, in December, we saw a, let me see here. In the first week of December, in a 3-day period, we deployed Narcan 4 times.
Okay. So I had asked, I think, for this item to be brought up because I really wanted to get an update on IV Foot Patrol and some of the challenges that you're facing, especially in regards to COVID, in regards to some of the things that were happening with our houseless population in the parks. And so that was kind of the genesis for bringing up this item. But I did, and so I didn't ask this in the other item, but I want to ask it here of Lieutenant Camarena is, I know you have a lot of experience in law enforcement with the Sheriff's Department, and I would be interested in some of your ideas for some of the challenges that we are facing with unlawful behavior with specifically regarding to COVID and the gatherings. I know you focus more on the enforcement side, of course, but I'm also wondering if you and Deputy Schroeder and also Lieutenant Millard have any suggestions or things that people haven't considered, the county, and the university. So that's what I wanted to ask.
That's actually a good question. The only thing that comes to mind is being able to identify. We get emails, maybe 2 days later, maybe 4 days later of a party that happened inside the house. I think one of the things that come to mind is if somebody knows who they are, maybe do an outreach with them, not necessarily go and issue a citation, but have a sit down, have a conversation with that individual and explain to them about their behavior in a more of a one-on-one type conversation with no you're going to get in trouble or no citation. That's one way of attacking it. And I mean, that could be time consuming because you're doing one person at a time. That's one thing that comes in mind. The other thing, it was already mentioned by Deputy Shorter, is trying to work together with the university and IVCSD and other organizations where we could, once we identify somebody who's violating those health order violations, is for us to reach out, for us to have that conversation. They just don't hear from law enforcement, but they hear from the university, they hear from government organization, but also the student organization. That's one thing just comes to mind.
Are you talking about like a peer advisor approach or ambassador approach? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, it's the best would be more of a peer to peer. I think that will have the more success, but we could also, do, law enforcement, law enforcement in plain clothes, a peer group, a UCSB representative, associated students. I mean, we could try the different approaches, but start with peer to peer and mostly an ambassador. That's one thing that Deputy Shorter and I were working last year, actually before COVID, is trying to get a neighborhood ambassador type program where it would be more like a self-policing and it'll be less policing from the law enforcement side.
Director Geis, I see your hands up. Director Geis, I think you're on mute.
Is law enforcement, the sheriff and UCSB police, are they getting vaccinated? Are you guys protecting yourselves, or are they protecting you from the masses?
Yes, the sheriff's office is getting vaccinated. We started with our custody deputies first. And I know that I think the majority of the custody deputies have been vaccinated, and now we started with the patrol deputies. And I know not all the patrol deputies have been vaccinated, but we're in that process. I think we may be 50% vaccinated, but I could double check and give you exact numbers percentage wise of how many more people needs to get vaccinated.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, it sounds like you guys get out there with the masses. So it seems like you are high up there on the list to get yourself protected, along with, the staff at UCSB as they start to bring back students and stuff. So I just think that's a good idea. And you guys deserve to be up there on the list. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is Dave from UCPD. It's all going in phases as it happens. We had phase 1A and 1B, and most law enforcement and first responders are falling into the 1B area, which is they're beginning to deploy that here real quick. within a matter of a week or so. So I think everyone will be getting vaccinated here shortly, but it is a process and kind of a wait your turn.
That's good to hear.
Thanks for that. And I see a hand again from Director Deschler.
Yes, I had a question of Lieutenant Camarena. Is Ivy Foot Patrol able to give citations under the administrative fine ordinance, or is that something only non-sworn officers can do?
No. I'm sorry, I thought I was on mute. No, we are starting to issue citations, the county ordinance citation, which is section 51. We are not we're not citing for the misdemeanor section of the health and safety code. We're now citing for the county ordinance.
Okay, because we got a late item. It's an Excel spreadsheet as part of our packet, and it says COVID-19 related cases, and there's like 12 cases. Can you just tell us what this is? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yes, it's the citations that we have issued since COVID began of the health order violation. And early on, we were issuing the violation of the health order under the health and safety code. It basically says that we're violating a health order, and it's a misdemeanor. So, for example, before the county ordinance of urinated in public came to effect, when somebody urinated in public, we issue a penal code section, which was a misdemeanor, had a little bit more of a bigger fines and a higher punishment. So the county went to a county ordinance for urinating in public, which is now administrative fine, or a fine, so less punishment. So what the county did this time, instead of us issuing a citation for a misdemeanor health order violation, we're issuing a county ordinance violation, which has a lesser punishment, but it has a lesser fine. But also, there's consequences when they receive that citation.
Okay, so then the document we have shows that there's been 12 health and safety or other violations of health officer order since 4/14/2020. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Director Flaherty.
Yeah, I'm looking at the spreadsheet now as well, and I'm curious, I don't know if I'm just not reading this correctly. So how many are relating directly to the county ordinance passed in like October? I am looking at one, if I'm reading it correctly, but I was wondering if you could explain that a bit more.
Yeah, all of those were issued the health and safety code, but as of Monday, I had to provide training and guidance to my new sergeants about the county ordinance. So from this weekend, or from yesterday and on, they're going to be issuing the county ordinance. So now, instead of seeing the 12095 HNS, you're going to start seeing SBC, which is Santa Barbara County Ordinance 5-1, and I believe is 5-1. I'm sorry, 51-4.
And then just a follow-up, thank you. Where would we be able to access like data relating to that specific violation?
I'm just to make sure I understand. You want the circumstances of the violation, like what happened, why they got issued the citation, or how many more citations other than these types of citation we have issued?
How many citations given out of the new county ordinance that was passed. So just the fines that aren't counted as the misdemeanor.
I do not have those ones yet. As I mentioned, this Monday, I gave the new directive to my new sergeants to start using the county ordinance section. So from now on, beginning next Monday, you'll be able to, on our website, you're going to be able to see a weekly activity log, and it will have those violations in there. So there'll be, if they got issue a citation for the county ordinance, or they got arrested for fighting, or if they got a traffic citation, you'll be able to see in the weekly activity log that we're going to be publishing beginning next Monday.
Thank you.
And if you need any specific data, just let me know, or let Deputy Shorter know, and we could get you that information.
Director Deschler.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up with Catherine. The ordinance went before the board in, I don't know, September, October, but then it's a 30-day reading between the first and the second reading. So I don't think it actually went into effect until December 10th or December 17th. So that's why we haven't seen fines from the IV Foot Patrol or the county, because it just hasn't been in effect very long.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Director Bertrand.
Thank you. One more point on just the general topic of safety. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you, Director Deschler, for bringing this forward. Back over the past couple of years, we've focused a lot on how do we better notify the community during times of emergency, especially times when there's high visibility emergencies, such as like what we saw back in November when someone passed away on UCSB campus. And right after that, there was the high visibility search in Isla Vista. And a lot of community members, as that was happening, were very concerned about what was going on and how do they find out about what's happening. Lots of rumors circulating as well. So I just bring this up as something that hopefully we could work on some more this year about how do we notify people when those active emergencies are going on. I know it's something that has been a priority of the Foot Patrol this past year, but I'm wondering if there's any movement that we can work on to enhance that. Also, I know that people who are UCSB students or UCSB workers, a lot of times they'll be plugged into the UCSB campus notification, which is fantastic. But for folks who are Isla Vista residents who are not affiliated, or folks who are Santa Barbara City College residents, how do we make sure that those folks are plugged in? Because a lot of the time when these emergencies are happening, everything is being done appropriately from the public safety side, but residents are left in the dust wondering what's going on. So I just throw that out there as something that perhaps we can partner on in this year ahead.
Thanks, Director Bertrand. I'm excited too. I thought we had a pretty good partnership going forward with that intern that you guys had kind of temporarily approved, and then you pulled the funding from me. So I thought we were almost there, but now we aren't. So hopefully we can partner again. But we were close.
And I mean, just one example of this, like in other parts of the county, say Hope Ranch, Montecito, there have been issues where there was a violent crime and there was a heavy law enforcement response, and those residents got either a cell phone alert or some other type of emergency alert. And in IV, we oftentimes see that for folks who are university students, but for other folks, how do we just make sure that they're getting the alert as it's happening?
So Ethan, just kind of to add to that, what we do is we do through NIXO, we do outreach to the community, and if they want to get updates, emergencies, they sign up to through NIXO and through the county. That's one way of doing it.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for that, Director Bertrand. I just want to say I echo those comments. Director Freeman, I think I saw your hand.
A very quick question. So what is NIXO? Can you spell it? Where would I find it? How is it advertised also, just generally?
NIXEL, NIXEL, And if you go to the county website, let me see real quick.
Maybe NIXLE.
Yeah, I think you're right. So let me look for it real quick, and I could send it to you, and we could share it through the chat.
Okay. I did find now, I mean, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff on putting out Nixle wires. Don't see, I guess if you get back with information on, because I don't really see anything about Isla Vista here, but.
Yeah, that's for the whole county. So it just depends what area it is. And Isla Vista is unique because, you know, every year we get new community members. So it's trying to constantly making sure the new community members, you know, have this information so they could get the alerts not only from the university but also from the sheriff's office or the county.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Director Geis.
You know, I just sit back and say, you know, the only way out of this pandemic is vaccination. And I don't think issuing a bunch of fines is going to do much for that. I think we should be focusing on vaccinating people and getting people to take the vaccination and do it efficiently and effectively. And 6 months from now, we won't be having a conversation about issuing fines for big parties. But I don't think the county's ordinance has been effective. I don't think that it's been being used. And I just don't see a lot of bang for the buck in, you know, trying to put an effort be issuing a bunch of fines to a bunch of people. So that's just my, you know, observation.
Thanks for that, Director Geis. I think now we'll open it up for public comment. Does anyone wish to speak on public safety? All right. Oh, I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Spencer. Yeah, so a couple of things I wrote down here. So one, I want to appreciate that. So I haven't been in Isla Vista for some time since August, and that I saw some deputies, sheriff's deputies walking by, and that they had masks on. So I was really appreciative of that because that was different than what I'd seen in August. And I just want to appreciate that happening. Second thing I want to mention is I'm just curious. I don't expect a response, but I am curious about the combination of several people needing Narcan in succession, and I'm wondering if those are related to each other. I think one could assume they are, but there could be randomness involved in that. And also wondering if any of those drugs were ever linked to the gentleman who was driving recklessly through Isla Vista with methamphetamine and firearms in his home. I'm just wondering if there was any update on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is I continue to never hear briefed, and I've said this before on here as a citizen, I've never heard anything briefed about bike theft. And I think that is one of the #1 issues to students, which is like 98% of this populace here. And it is the crime that we feel most directly. That if I commute with my bike, like I ride my bike sometimes for fun, but I really commute with my bike. And if it's like stolen from me, that's probably what upsets me most in this community. And I never hear that briefed at all. And the last thing I'll just mention is that I just didn't fully understand the comment from one of the directors. It seems like you can do two things at once, both vaccinating and finding people who are in clear violation of what is both moral and the county ordinance. Yeah, that's all. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mark, for those comments. Are there any other comments from members of the public? All right. right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. We appreciate, as always, updates on safety in Isla Vista from our partners in law enforcement. And we are hopeful that the situation will continue to improve in the coming days and months. All right. With that, then if there are no other board comments, I think we'll move on to item 4.3. Oh, I do see a hand from Director Aguilar.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Mark's comment about bike theft. I think that's a very important issue. I've been fortunate enough to live in IV for 10 years now, and throughout many of my different versions of employment, the bicycle is the number one thing that's allowed me to receive a paycheck, whether my job was at UCSB or whether my job was a further commute into Santa Barbara County. And it's an issue that came up a lot when I was thinking about running for office, which is transportation. And we'd have a serious transportation struggle here in IV, and how this can be more ecological and safe. One of the things that I've noticed that brings me a lot of unsafety is the traffic light right at Pardal. And it kind of turns into like a racing situation when people see the green light. And there's previous danger of riding a bicycle in that area when there was no light. But I think that we need to hold on to our roots and our tradition here in Isla Vista, which is a bicycling community. And there's many reasons why people ride the bicycle. The weather's nice. It's good for the earth. It's good for your health. There's plenty of great things. And I know many other longer term residents like myself who deal with bike theft as a regular problem. When you try and have the same bike for however many years and then it gets stolen from you, it really becomes a big issue. One of my closest friends had a bike stolen and then tried to sell back to him for parts, and he basically had no support from law enforcement because it is kind of a awkward issue. It's a bicycle. How do you prove who owns a bicycle and who doesn't? But I think we should maybe have an update on random small crimes like that in our small town, because I do see a lot of theft of bicycles from our houseless neighbors right now. And yeah, it's caused a lot of issues in my personal community of longer term residents. They're really fed up with it. And I didn't think it was going to come into a comment, but here it is. So I just want to second Mark's point of the bicycle being a really important factor of life here.
Spencer, it's Deputy Schroeder. If I could comment just real briefly.
Go ahead.
I don't know that, hey, I'll just be blunt. It's hard to say, and it won't be popular to certain people on the meeting here, but there's an unbelievable amount of bike theft happening with the homeless community right now. We are recovering between 4 to 6 bikes per day from People's Park that are stolen. Now, you don't see those stats because the owners of the bikes will not report them stolen. They'll just walk by the park, point them out, and then call us to assist in retrieving their bikes. But they don't want it on paper. They don't want their name associated with it, and they don't want to file a police report. And so these stats are not out there, but I'm out there every day, and I'm helping recover, like I said, probably an average of 5 bikes a day. And so it's really unacceptable. It's tough for us to determine who's stealing those bikes because they're sort of stored in common areas and tents where there's just a mass of bikes. But these are people's bikes that are being stolen, and nobody really wants to help us out with doing anything with it. So we're happy to partner, and please get the word out that I know these folks are struggling living in the parks, but they're also committing a lot of crimes. And so I want that to be known.
And thank you for those comments, Director Schroeder. And if I could just follow up, is there anything that we can do to help the situation?
I think just the general awareness. There's an awful lot of folks that just want to pour resources into helping the people who live in the parks, which is great. but they're actively working against us to sort of police that population. And I understand that. I understand where they're coming from, but we also have to stop the crime from occurring in our community. So maybe just a little bit of public support that, hey, let's all be out there to help those folks who are down on their luck, but let's also make sure they're abiding by the law. So I think that's the best we can do right now.
All right, back to the board. Although I do see some hands raised for public comment, I'm assuming. I think I saw Christina and then Gina.
Hi, I'm Christina. Justin, I would love to work with you guys anyway. I work with the homeless in Isla Vista, and I've also experienced the theft, and it is a huge increase. I've lived in Isla Vista over 10 years, and I have not experienced theft like I have this last year. And it's not just bicycles, it's packages on people's doorsteps and our neighbors' doorsteps. And so any way that we can help to serve our houseless neighbors and also our housed neighbors, I'd love to talk about.
Thank you, Christina. And Gina, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone that crime is not random. It's not like people, when they have the access to good paying jobs and basic necessities, they wouldn't have the need to steal. I don't justify stealing by any means. I'm not agreeing with that choice, but at the same time, I think it's unfair to characterize these people as thieves, and that what they're doing is supported by the public. I think Justin Schroeder, Officer Schroeder, obviously has a lot of public support for, decreasing bike theft. But what do you want us to do about it as the public? Like, I don't really think that's not our job. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to prevent our things from getting stolen. That's the best we can do. And in the meantime, I do think that increasing resource to people is not pouring resources. It's not a waste, but increasing people's quality of lives will decrease crime. Thank you.
And thank you for those comments, Gina. And I know we've gotten a little bit, well, it is on topic because it's safety related. I'll just say, I guess, as a parting, I've dealt with bike theft before. I had 2 bikes stolen, unfortunately. I've also had a laptop stolen, and that one was the one thing that I thought, maybe I've got a chance to get this one back. It's a computer, for God's sakes. It can be tracked and traced, right? Unfortunately, I did not, but I do know that I did end up reporting it to law enforcement. And I do remember when I made that police report down at the station, one of the deputies, and I don't think that this was, he was ill-natured, but he did say, good luck. There's basically a minuscule chance that we're ever going to find it. And I know that definitely colored my attitude about how effective it was to report lost or stolen items to law enforcement. So it's great to hear that this is something that is really being prioritized, because I think that's something that will make community members more comfortable and feeling like it's worth their time and energy to go through that process of reporting. Okay. So with that, if there's no other comments on safety.
Christina has her hand raised.
Christina, you still?
Sorry, I just forgot to lower it. Thank you.
Okay.
No worries. Thanks, Christina. So with that, I think we can move on to item 4.3, which is the Isla Vista Beautiful mid-year update. And I'll hand it over to our staff.
Great, thank you. So we're doing the update for Isla Vista Beautiful. We usually do it in January of every year. And just for those who are on who don't know, Isla Vista Beautiful is one of our programs at the Isla Vista Community Services District. It's focused on our abilities around graffiti abatement and maintenance of public spaces, like sidewalks and gutters. So we're really excited to turn it over to Christina and Miranda, who's new, who will introduce herself. But they've been, we met with them to go over this presentation. I think it looks good and that we have a good result in this past fiscal year on this program. And there's a lot more to do, but that's my summary. I'll let them talk about it. And I'm getting my share screen up right now. Just my Google Docs is going very, very slow today. Not sure if everyone else is like that, but we're getting it up. And yeah, I'll let you go ahead to open it up while I get the PowerPoint ready.
Hi, I'm Christina with the Isla Vista Beautiful. I helped, sorry, I'm getting a call. Helped start the program about 2 years ago. And I'm back on the program after being away for about a year. We just added Miranda, who is an AmeriCorps Vista member, and she's been handling a lot of the C-Click Fix stuff. So she came on maybe about a month ago, and she's done an amazing job. So Miranda.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Miranda. I'm a UCSB alum, and I'm happy to be serving as a Vista here in Isla Vista with Christina as my supervisor. So yeah, today we're just going to be going over essentially the last 6 months of our program and give you some stats as well as some pictures to show kind of what our work looks like. And hopefully it'll be straightforward. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask at the end.
Just want to make sure the share screen looks good for everybody. Everyone can see it fine. Great.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so this is an actual chart of all of the different requests that have come in for our program from the last 6 months. So as you can see, our requests are kind of broken up into different categories. If they're related to graffiti, they have multiple different divisions under that, like if it's private property or Marburg property. If you scroll all the way down on this slide, you can see the totals of all of the different categories that we, sorry, I don't know if it's scrollable.
Oh yeah, I need to scroll. I have to exit the thing to scroll. Give me a second, sorry.
Overall,
I did test this before.
No, it's okay. Overall, I think we had a pretty successful 6 months, considering a lot of staff turnover. Christina came on board in September, August time after spending some time away, and obviously I'm new as well. So yeah, those are our totals for the previous 6 months. And just to clarify, requests can be made either by our staff members or by any individuals who have the C-Click Fix app or open it up on their desktop. So any individual in the Isla Vista community can report any requests of graffiti, landscaping, trash, things like that. You can go to the next slide. So this is all of our requests to date. As you can see, we've substantially grown we've grown a lot in numbers, and it has been about 2 years since the program started. So we're just excited to see that we're continuing to expand, and our you'll hear a little bit later about our goals for continuing that expansion. But this is the data, these are the numbers. Awesome. So these are just some visual aids for kind of more of a description of what our employees do. So as you can see, there is a lot of graffiti around Isla Vista. Sometimes we can just, kind of block it out of our vision, but this is a real problem that we face. And so our team works really hard to abate that graffiti. And then we also do a lot of trash collection. So larger trash piles and large trash items like mattresses, drawers, whatever. We do call Marburg for those. But if you ever see anything like that, you can also report those to us. Thanks. Oh, a common sight in Isla Vista, seeing lots of trash everywhere. And those are examples of what our team can go and clean up. Cool. We also work on some landscaping projects. As you can see, this is right in front of Rosarito. There was a large overgrown patch, and actually a couch was left there. So our team member Ron went ahead and did some amazing landscaping work here. Awesome. So Christina, do you want to do this one? You're muted.
You're muted, Christina.
Sorry. This is also a work experience program. So our employees are either currently or formerly homeless. We have some of the things that we've kind of done this year that's new is we've established biweekly team meetings, which is we've gotten really good results from. The guys have really found it helpful. We've been able to start doing some, trainings as we see is needed, watching YouTube's videos about this or that. We've been working on establishing good lines of communication with our employees and chain of command, and our employees getting along with each other. Two of our employees, when they came on, they had some communication issues that has been resolved, and they work together great now. And so we're really proud of the work that they've done, and just all the work that we're doing with them. Miranda did an amazing MLK service day recently, trying to get the community involved in what we're doing with Isla Vista Beautiful and the awareness out about See-Click Fix. And so one of the things that we're going to be working on this year is continuing to do that and troubleshooting as to why people aren't using it more. However, it's also not, our guys are using it, and so that's our main goal. We had one of our employees elevated to team lead position, so that was a step up for him, and kind of a growth for our agency. We had two of our team members have their first annual review, so our third team member will have his second annual review coming up in a few months. So it's nice to see that they've stuck around and been able to be successful. Miranda, do you want to talk about the MLK Day?
Sure, yeah. So you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Yeah, so maybe you saw the flyer, maybe you didn't. This past week, so a week from yesterday, we held our MLK Service Day event. We had a basic cleanup, waste cleanup in Isla Vista, but the little added on feature was that we asked all of our participants to use See-Click Fix in order to get more requests coming in and to get just regular Isla Vista community members used to using the app or the browser version. So yeah, we actually asked participants to take pictures of the trash that they were going to pick up, or if they saw any graffiti or landscaping projects that they weren't able to complete in that day. It was very successful. We had about 30 volunteers, and collectively we got 42 of those 5-gallon buckets full of trash. So I think it was a really successful event, and our very own Spencer Brandt was there and collected some trash. So we appreciated that. Thank you. Oh, and just to cover our COVID-19 precautions, as we were having an in-person event during the stay-at-home order, we tried our very best to make sure that every individual who was participating was remaining safe. We followed the CDC guidelines that were mandated for all AmeriCorps service days and every event in person. And then also we did a spaced arrival. So every either individual or cohort pod, house pod, whatever you want to call it, was asked to come in a 15-minute interval, and then to just go to wherever they were going to be picking up trash. So those were the precautions that we set in place for the event.
Do we have any questions?
Any questions from members of the board for Christina or Miranda? Director Aguilar.
Thank you for the presentation. First, I want to say thank you for this effort in general, Ivy Beautiful. This is great to see. This reminds me a lot of the tradition that was very strong in the past with Isla Vista's Adopt a Block program, which I think is run by IVRPD. And I'm glad to see that, there's a really strong effort being made to continue this kind of tradition on different days of service. So thank you for that. I want to know if there's goals of, so you've already had a lot of expansion, but I want to know, maybe what are your goals, say, by the end of summer or by the end of spring, or what kind of improvements you envision through the next few months as we get to warmer weather, or what kind of participation from different residents as far as using the app, but also future 3-day weekends on which we could continue this kind of volunteering effort.
Thank you for your comments. Actually, the Adopt a Block was kind of the inspiration for this program. With Miranda coming on as AmeriCorps Vista, part of her duties is kind of capacity building with these work experience programs that we offer. So the MLK Day was kind of one of those things. We are going to be looking at more, since the board meeting is over, we'll be looking more at how to increase awareness of the C-Click fix. Assuming that we more students coming back and stay-at-home orders are lifted, if we are getting a lot more requests, then we would look at hiring new people. Originally we had our employees working 10 hours a week, and instead of hiring additional people, we increased their hours. So that's one way that we have grown and will continue to grow.
Do you want me to jump in also?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Emily Allen. I'm the Director of Homeless and Veteran Impact Initiatives with United Way Home for Good. So I get to work with Christina and Miranda. And one thing that we're looking at is a partnership with the workforce development boards. And we have secured some grant funding that can be utilized for work experience programs. So I think that's always been a goal that Jonathan and I have talked about is, what funding might we be able to draw into the community. And I think with COVID and with there being potentially more funding for these type of work experience programs, there could be opportunities for growth also. And we have staff that works under these work experience programs, working at food banks and expanding some of these beautification projects. And like I've said before, this effort in Isla Vista really was the starting place, for developing this. And so we're just regularly looking for what other funding might allow us to expand.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Are there other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Ethan.
Thank you. Well, thank you to the whole C-Click Fix team, Ivy Beautiful team, and United Way for being here tonight. I think this is one of the most positive programs we have, and we've been able to make a really big difference with it. Just earlier today, I saw Ron walking around with a wheelbarrow doing awesome work. So it's great to see. I echo many of the thoughts that have already been shared about wanting to build community engagement with this, and especially to build usership of the C-Click Fix app. I think that it's done a great job as a work management tool for the district and for the C-Click Fix Ivy Beautiful team members. But how do we get more Isla Vista residents to use it? I was talking with Director Aguilar the other day about it, and one idea that we kind of discussed was for ultimately us to aspire for the C-Click Fix app to be an Isla Vista resident's go-to source of information or how to take action when they need help with something in Isla Vista. And it really has the potential to have a lot of those elements, both related directly to this program and also related to some of our other services. But specifically for this program, when speaking about how we could potentially increase the interface of community members getting involved, we were talking about the potential for incentives and how do we incentivize community members to, when they see something, report it through this app so that it could be addressed. And we could obviously spitball a lot of ideas tonight. We don't have to do that, but if between now and perhaps our next meeting, we could think about some incentives, whether it's raffles or giveaways or partnerships with local businesses that provide a benefit for reporting something and helping resolve an issue, I think that could be really helpful. But I'm really impressed with what we have before us today. And then one additional question I have is, does the program need any assistance with supplies right now? Do we have any upgrades that we want to make to improve the work product? If so, what are those upgrades?
We have done a tool and supply drive in the past, so that is something potentially we could look at. But Christina, were you about to say something?
I was just gonna say, I mean, we've talked about it in the past, but a pressure washer could be a next step at some point.
Got it. So maybe that's something that staff can work on and report back to, just creating a list with that item and other things that you think of as well.
Thank you for that, Director Bertrand. Are there other comments from the board? Director Deschler.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, also echo what Marcus and Ethan said. This is such a great program, and I love the partnership with Home for Good. I love that, you know, bringing in work experience and doing something really positive in the community. It's just so awesome. I just downloaded the app because I'd never seen it before. Super cute. Isla Vista right there. 1,151 issues fixed at this time. Awesome. I wanted to ask you, people already mentioned how you are going to get out the word about C-Click Fix, and that's been answered. I wonder if there's any engagement. So I have two questions. Is there any engagement with the property owners in promoting this? I wanted to ask, and then how do you deal with the issue of private property? Do you have to go through the property owner to access their property to clean things up or pick up trash? I just am curious about that.
Yeah, I can answer this one. So in terms of private property, we passed a resolution at the end of 2019 to kind of govern what our, how we're going to address it. The basic way is within 8 feet of the public right of way, we just take care of it because it's, we consider it as in the public right of way. Beyond 8 feet, we do have a system set up, but it hasn't been fully realized. But the way that system would work would be, we have a consent form that we would send out to the property owner if we found their graffiti beyond 8 feet on their property. And we'd work, and this is something they'd have to opt into. And that's our phase one. There would be future phases where, we'd have potentially fines for leaving it on too long. But in our first phase, we'd reach out, let them know, send them this consent form. And so they could either take care of the graffiti themselves, which some have wanted to do actually, and then some have wanted, would want us to do it. So we've had only one fill out the form so far. But I think it's something where we can, it's like the mediation program where it took a while, but more and more landlords are now a fan of using the program and, are more receptive to using it. So I think it's going to be a similar situation here, but we do have a system. It's just, we haven't been able to fully realize it because we passed it and then COVID hit. So we're adjusting to that. But now that we've more fully staffed at Ivy Beautiful, it's something we have put on our agenda to, how we're gonna do more on the graffiti abatement policy execution. So we're doing the basics, but there is a next step we can do.
And then maybe I'll just add, the outreach to the community. We have always identified, the business community as one aspect of the outreach that we want to do. And I really like the incentive idea and using, maybe, prizes or incentives that help to highlight local businesses. I think that's a great idea. And we're just, I think, very lucky to have our AmeriCorps Vista program this year. Our second year with Avista Miranda is a very strong Vista. She's a recent UCSB graduate and, really knows the community well. And so I think there's a lot of potential to do, more outreach than we've ever done before.
Thank you for that. I'll say one of the things I've always loved about the See-Click-Fix app and the way that it interfaces with our program is how instantaneous almost it is. You'll get a notification when your issue has been taken care of. And I just found out what it feels like when you not only know that your issue is taken care of, but you actually see the photo of the graffiti that you took and reported on the app presented in the presentation. I think one of those was something that I took, and it's really great to see taken care of. I only took it a couple of days ago, actually. So it's great to see that there is such quick turnaround on our requests. And I really want to commend you, Christina and Miranda, and the entire team for the MLK Day of Service event. I know I had a great time, and I thought you did such an excellent job of keeping everything very COVID safe, but also providing people an ability to make a big difference in the community. So ironically enough, Director Deschler actually got at what one of my comments was going to be, which is that we've got I've been thinking about who are our natural users of an app like this. We have many of us here on the call who are incredibly engaged citizens, and we see a pothole and we want it fixed. And we also have our property providers that are already providing maintenance on properties in Isla Vista. And if we can get them engaged with reporting some of these other issues that exist, I know there were a number of pictures of trash in this presentation as well. And I'm sure that I know many folks have it written into their leases that if there is trash strewn about their property, they're liable for fines and things like that. And so if Isla Vista Beautiful is out there cleaning up trash in these areas, that's something that they should know about, and something that the property managers potentially can take advantage of. So overall, I'm very impressed and continue to be impressed with the work that's coming out of the Ivy Beautiful program, and want to echo comments that others have made about wanting to support if there are ways that we can expand, grow, and take the program to the next level. I know in the past we have talked about the pressure washer, and I think we got into a little bit of a hiccup in regards to water, but I know that if that is something that we think we can venture into, I really would like for our staff to work together with Ivy Beautiful to see if that's something that's feasible, because I know it's something that I think could make a big difference in the overall appearance and upkeep of the downtown business area.
Yeah, I think the pressure washer is possible. We were almost there 2 years ago, I think, but we decided to go for the easy, lower hanging fruit to get done. But I think it's possible now. I think one issue was price in terms of the cost of water and the use of water, as we were in a deeper drought back then too. So it's a new issue we could look at. I know maybe Director Geis had some ideas of how we can get some reclaimed water and truck it into Isla Vista. Maybe I don't know. Someone had that idea at some point. So there could be ways to do it, but we could keep thinking about it. But maybe now the staff is also like our team, our Ivy Beautiful workers are ready to use that equipment and be out there with it too. So one thing I didn't mention, and I think even our whole Ivy Beautiful team doesn't know, because they let me know about this morning, but I got a call from the county that they would like us to, we asked if we could help with the red curb graffiti, because there's been a lot of graffiti on red curbs in Isla Vista. So they're going to drop off some red paint for us, and we'll be able to take care of those issues too now. That's a new thing we can help with.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah. I didn't get to let you know. It's just earlier today. So now we know.
Excellent. Really glad to hear that. And I see a hand from Director Flaherty.
Hi. First, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work y'all are doing. I think this is such an incredible program, and it's super exciting for me to hear about and learn about. And then while you guys were presenting, I was thinking of ways that we could increase awareness for this program for users to submit more. And I was thinking about the day of service that recently happened that was open to everyone. And I don't know necessarily how much this could help, but even advertising, if there are future events like that that are open to the public, maybe advertising that towards like programs related to the university that require community service hours, like Greek Life or the honors program. And even that, like offering community service hours for that, but then they would know about the program and maybe even talk to their friends about it too. So I know that could be a small way to increase awareness so that more community members know. But thank you all for the work that you're doing. And I actually just downloaded it while we were speaking too, so I'm excited to use it as well.
Yeah, sorry, just super quickly, I wanted to respond to that. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I just want to thank everyone for all of the wonderful suggestions. I'm very excited to be working on like media campaigns and social media campaigns to try to increase our awareness. I actually did get a lot of people because I posted the event on the honors listserv for UCSB. So people needing hours for the honors program, and then I also did advertise with a lot of sororities and frats. So that was another really good way. So yeah, we're on the same wavelength, Catherine.
Excellent.
We did get a lot of people showing up, but we didn't get as much use of the See-Click Fix app that we would have expected. So we definitely welcome any suggestions on how we might be able to market that better.
Yeah, we'll work on it. I think we had good ideas today, and we'll come up with a plan to work on it. But I think there's ways to do it where we can make it fun and like an incentive. Whoever submits the most today gets a prize or something like that. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
I think I saw a hand from Director Bertrand. Go ahead.
Thank you. And sorry if I missed this in all of the details. There are just so many things to be excited about with this program. But as far as the staffing level of folks who were formerly homeless or veterans, how are we doing with that staffing level? Is that something that we potentially want to expand? Or do we think we're at the sweet spot of staff members right now? And sorry if I missed this.
Yeah, I mean, I think within our current budget, we're on track, to meet our goals around staffing. As I mentioned, I think that there are some opportunities where the actual, and they're not long-term employees, it is for a period of a certain number of months, but where we could have additional employees who are doing the work experience program through this federal grant, where it's funded through an outside funding source outside of our current budget. So I think their expansion could be a good thing, but right now within the current budget, we are on track.
Got it. Thank you.
Excellent. I see a hand from Director Aguilar.
Yes, thank you. Another just like a beautification issue that comes up very regularly in Isla Vista and is also brought to my attention by longer term residents, especially here on 6A block, is the move out weekend amount of trash that comes. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily an Ivy Beautiful project, but the amount of excitement and also positive work that Ivy Beautiful has already done, that's the source that I trust the most as far as how do we keep our space and our community clean and pretty looking. And maybe we could have like a similar type of social media campaign or advertising campaign to let Ivy residents know about their options to deal with waste for move out weekend. I know that UCSB has done things like this in the past. And I don't know if they're doing it with COVID. I know in the past it was near Ivy Theater. But even with that in full succession, there's tons of move out trash that happens, and maybe Ivy Beautiful could work on like just a educational campaign, and we could also partner with property owners so they don't kind of just let the streets become filthy, because then that just kind of becomes a headache for Marburg. It becomes a headache for those of us who stick around. It becomes a headache for Ivy Beautiful when we could address this waste issue at the source.
Yeah, if I could just speak to that. We have had the discussion of move-in weekend as a challenge or opportunity for our board to help address a couple times, and we were thinking of doing something in 2020, and obviously it was the beginning of COVID, so it wasn't on our plate. We did do some though, and Ivy Beautiful actually did play a good role in at least being out there and making sure that the biggest grievances were at least taken care of or reported, just so at least Marburg knew. So we were doing as much of a response we could do at the time in 2020. And the gift sale was also, sadly, not happening because of COVID. But it's been one of our board goals to think about this more and to work on it. And there are lots of options of what could be done. It just takes a concerted effort, and we have lots of partners. So it's move out weekend is it's an opportunity to do some good. And we were poised to almost do something in 2020, but COVID got in the way. So hopefully we can take that step this time and build on it. But one cool idea that I did hear in the press, I think, was pre-furnishing units in Isla Vista gets rid of a lot of the waste because it's being thrown out. So that was one idea I heard, but also just it's still going to be an issue to deal with the move out waste, and Ivy Beautiful did play a role, and we can keep doing that.
And definitely heard the education campaign piece and potentially incorporating that. So
I think those are all really great ideas, Director Aguilar, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I know it always seems to me up until this last year, where we had so much good stuff that we were planning on doing, and then COVID threw a wrench in it. But it always seems to me like we have the same conversation every year where we realize, we should try and figure out to do something about move out. But then it's too late because we're already in June. So I'm really glad that we're thinking about it early, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to get the gift sale back up and running this year. We'll be in a place where it's safe to do so. I I'm glad that we're thinking about it now. Are there any other comments or questions from board members? Okay, I would open it up to public comment then. Any members of the public have comments on the Isla Vista Beautiful program update? All right, I see one from Mark. Go ahead, Mr. Vukovic.
I swear, if anyone wants to speak ever before me, they're please. I just want to say though that I love this so much. I've loved this since I very first heard about it about 18 months ago. I guess I wanted to say a few things that many of you know. I've been an organizer, and what this feels like is this feels like organizing 101. And I really think like we as the public come to you all for so many things. And I think this is a great opportunity for you to come to us as the public and make an ask of us. Like I know for myself, and this is just because I'm weird. Like I wrote down things that I'm planning on doing. Like I'm in a class on local city politics, and I'm gonna mention this in my class tomorrow. I have an email blast too that has a bunch of local residents, and I'm gonna email out to them. And I think making an ask of residents is not that hard, and I think should be really essential. And I also want to bring up, yeah, just like if I'm sure this has been, because this has been a program for so long, but if anyone's reached out to local businesses, I think that would be really great. I mean, I think Sunny, one of the owners at Nonstop, for an example, like would totally love to like advertise this more. And even as little as like inviting me, a member of the public, to talk to my landlord. I have a landlord, fun fact. And so I'm happy to talk to Dorian about this and see if this can be implemented within more of the units here. So yeah, I like I said, there's so much that we ask of you all as my elected officials, but please ask what we can do for the greater good of Isla Vista. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for that, Mark. As always, we love your approach and passion for this. All right, back to the board. So I think we've heard a great presentation. I would entertain a motion. I think it'll be good to direct staff to bring back the publicity and marketing campaign and some service expansion requests at a future meeting. I see you,
Sure.
Director.
Thank you. I'll make that motion to direct staff to report back with an update on marketing and community engagement efforts, as well as necessary equipment upgrades for the program.
I would like to second that motion.
Made by Bertrand and seconded by Aguilar. Any other board comments? Or Ethan, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. I'll just mention, I really am grateful that we have this opportunity to recognize the good work of the folks who are making this happen and cleaning up our community. And it's not lost on me that many of these folks are some of the most vulnerable members of our community. Many of these folks have been homeless in Isla Vista. And I know right now, as we've discussed earlier tonight, we do have a lot of concerns with homelessness, and there are a lot of impacts on the community. But it's also really nice to be able to highlight the work that these folks are doing for our community, and also important to realize the impact that our district can have, even a small impact in giving some of these folks opportunities, and how we should always be ready to extend these opportunities when given the chance. So thank you all.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. Director Deschler.
I was just going to mention, do we need to, in this motion or whatever we're doing, give direction to staff on the time to bring this back? Like, do we want this to come back within a certain amount of time?
Do we have a good time period? I guess I'm asking our staff what their thoughts on this is.
Yeah, I don't know, but it'll be up to our Ivy Beautiful team to help put this together. So we'll see. It'll come back, with within the next few months, maybe by the end of March, probably. We also have our other board agenda items to keep in mind, but I think we can get it done in the next month or two.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. So with that in mind, if there's no other board discussion, then I think we can move to a roll call vote.
Great. Give me a second. So Director Brent?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Geis?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Bertrand?
Yes.
Deschler?
Yes.
Excellent. Motion passes 7-0. As always, thank you, Christina, Miranda, and your entire Isla Vista Beautiful team. Please convey our utmost gratitude to the folks that you have on your team who are out there improving the community with landscaping and graffiti abatement every day. We really appreciate their service.
Thank you. We will.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to move to item 4.4, which is district COVID-19 response.
So, sorry, was finishing up the motion. So in terms of COVID-19 response, so since the last meeting, our biggest update is that we've just continued to do the social media promotion of testing and working with the UCSB SEAL office to do promotion and incentives to get tested. We don't have any much of a big update in terms of that. We've been continuing to attend the county calls, and there's a separate call just in Isla Vista, and they are convening a group that's specific on Isla Vista communication to improve that. And I think that meeting is actually tomorrow at 4 p.m. So we're going to attend that, and from there work with everybody else to move forward.
Excellent. Thank you for that update, Jonathan. Are there questions from the board? Director Deschler.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a comment that every weekend there's been about 570 tests at the IV theater. So that is a very popular and well-subscribed testing site.
That is correct. And I will butt in to add that one of those 570 tests this past Friday was my test. And lo and behold, I tested negative. I wasn't expecting to test positive. I hadn't been exposed to my knowledge, but I still wanted to take advantage of the testing because of how important it is right now for everyone to just make sure that getting tested is a part of the thing we all have to do to curb the spread. And I can tell you, I was very impressed that the test results came back within less than 24 hours. So I had never had a test that came back that quickly. So I was very happy with my experience there. I see a hand from Director Bertrand, and then I saw one from Director Flaherty. So I'll come to you.
Yes, thank you. I too am very excited and grateful to see the high test utilization by our community members. And it's definitely assuring when people go to get a routine test and it is negative, but sometimes it is positive, even when we are doing a lot to prevent the spread in our households. And unfortunately, that's the case with my household right now. We received a positive test result yesterday. During this meeting, I got news of another positive test result, and I'm presumed to unfortunately have the virus right now. And just a reminder for all of us that even if we are doing everything we can, it still can get to us. And now our responsibility shifts to making sure that we don't spread it, and that we really stay home. So just a reminder to everyone about the importance of communicating with your households, especially in Isla Vista. We live in very close quarters, and having a plan for what you do if you all do test positive. It can be really hard to figure out when there's not really room for everyone to quarantine in a household. And the best thing you can do is really just to have a plan and to work on notifying people as soon as possible, anyone you may have come into contact with, And I want to thank Public Health, UCSB, IVCSD, everyone who has been putting out this messaging, because when it does happen, it's just so helpful to have that message. So glad to hear from you, Jonathan, that we're continuing to do this messaging and just increased importance. Spencer, you mentioned earlier about how our cases continue to climb, with yesterday being the highest active cases in Isla Vista. And it's up to us to do something about it. And I'm encouraged by all the community efforts and look forward to continuing to work with you all on it. But just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Ethan. And we hope that we wish health upon you and your household. And it really is an important reminder about how close to home this virus can hit. Director Flaherty, I think you had a hand up.
Yes, I was originally going to ask if the numbers had stayed the same of amount of people getting tested, but Director Deschler did mention that it seemed to be pretty consistent, which is amazing. I was wondering, just because I get tested weekly at Student Health just because we have the resources to do so, so I just do that anyways. But so I haven't gone to the county one yet. But I was wondering, at that location, is there any mention of the fact that Student Health is there for students to go to, so that community members who wouldn't otherwise have access can still get tested on that Friday and Saturday? I don't know if that is a question directed at anyone necessarily that's gotten tested there, but I was just curious just to see. I don't know if some students go there who could be using the resources by UCSB. So I'm just curious on that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's there, but they did ask us when we promote it that we include info about UCSB Student Health, and we do mention that in our Instagram post that UCSB students can use Student Health as well. But but that's the only request that was made of us, is to just mention it so far.
Yeah, it's a great question, Catherine. And I know just from, and Jonathan and I were in a meeting recently with Joe Reynoso that a lot of people like to be able to set up an appointment. And then a lot of people like to be able to just walk in. So there's such good strengths, I think. And it's great that people have both options. And I think I saw a hand from you, Director Deschler.
I was just going to say, it's really our hope at Student Health that students go through the UCSB testing, because it frees up resources for the community, and they're parallel, but really we prefer that our students come to campus for testing. It's very quick, it's very easy.
And for folks who are on the call, if you could mute, that would be very helpful. Again, some background noise. Any other questions from board members? I see a hand from Director Bertrand.
Thank you. So just two questions for Jonathan on our efforts. First, how is our food distribution with St. George Youth Center going? And second, are we communicating with businesses about the purple tier and the new reopening guidelines, but also precautions for people who are enjoying time at those businesses?
Yeah, so in terms of the food distribution, I have on me the December report for it. And in December, we served 89 unduplicated households and 328 individuals or families. And we did a special thing for the holidays, just a pie and a chicken from Costco as an additional thing. So it was very successful in December, and we're looking forward to getting the update for January. So that's the food distribution program. That's nice because they've got it. We don't really have to try so much to work it. Leonore is really, she's got a handle on that program, and we talk and check in, but she's doing a great job getting it done. So thanks to her, I really, the next thing is the your question was, sorry, I totally missed it. I remember
Not
the
a
answer.
problem. Well, super glad to hear about those results from food distribution. The other question was about communicating with businesses on what the purple tier means.
Right. So we haven't sent out anything because we usually get a communication from county PIO to send out on this kind of stuff. So we're waiting on that just so I can send out the most accurate information. And I know the RISE team is doing that as well. So once I get the communication package, we'll send it out.
Cool, thank you. And then I can also attest that I guess about a week ago, I saw our CSO safety station tents out on a Saturday or Friday night, and it's great to have that presence again during COVID too. Great examples of people wearing masks and reminding folks to stay safe and safely passing out water as well. So I'm really pleased with the comprehensive response we have to the extent that that we can help.
Yeah, they're passing out masks at the safety stations, and I'm dropping off more this Friday. I mean, Lieutenant Millard just texting about it, so we're gonna get them more to pass out, but they've been doing fine out there.
That's great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for those questions. Are there any other comments from board members?
Oh, I actually do need to. I'm always forgetting this last details in our COVID response. We're actually working. It's related to the food distribution. We're working with Leonore to put up the testing information and COVID safety at the St. George Youth Center, so that when we're gonna get like huge posters of all that, so that when in English and Spanish. So we're working with the county and with Leonore to do it. So when people go get their food, they'll have they'll have something in hand, but also they'll see the information. Pretty big.
Excellent. We're glad to hear those updates. I'll open it up for public comment. Are there any comments from members of the public on COVID response? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. I don't think that we have any action on this unless board members have something they'd like to add to our priorities list here. All right, then with that, we'll close the COVID-19 response report item, and we'll move on to item 4.5, which is resolution 21-01, renumerating and correcting 2020 resolutions.
Great. So we hope to not have to do this too often, and we haven't done it in a couple of years since maybe 2018. But this is it's just a routine thing to do some corrections from last year. Just at the end of the year, we were doing just an audit of all our resolutions and noticed little things like we had a lot of resolutions that got introduced, waited in a meeting, something else got introduced and passed before the other one did. So we're just correcting things like that. And we had an issue where 2 resolutions had the same number, and that was just an administrative error on my fault. So we're correcting that. So William Ash, who's here today in place of Ross, helped us get this all correct legally, and myself and Deborah did all the work on figuring out where the errors were and what to correct. So it was a good team effort, and it's a simple resolution, obviously, but just one we have to do to clean up our work. And it was, COVID, I think, got in the way of not being able to, keep this all accounted for like we normally would. So we're just undoing some little mistakes that don't harm anyone, but are good to undo and have for a good record in the future.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Jonathan. And thank you, William, for being with us and helping with this item. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Any comments from members of the public? All right, I'll bring it back to the board and would entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll move to adopt this resolution 4.21-01, renumbering and correcting our 2020 resolutions.
I will second.
All right, motion made by Deshler, seconded by Freeman. Is there any other board discussion, public comment? All right, we will go to roll call vote.
Director Brett,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Geis, Director Flaherty,
Yes.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Bertrand,
Yes.
and Director Deschler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. With that, we'll go to item 5, reports, and we'll start with reports from members of the board. Any board members have reports? All right, the only thing I was going to report, I think has already been touched on, just praise and excitement for the work of our Ivy Beautiful team. It was really great to see everyone coming out for the day of service and how successful that was. Was happy to be there. I see a hand from Director Bertrand.
Sorry, the mute button escaped me. Just wanted to report our nightlife planning project work group has been in touch since the last meeting, and we're aiming to do the first community meeting on February 24th over Zoom. So right now we're working on making contact with stakeholders and very close to blasting this on our communication platforms. So just wanted to update you all on that.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Director Bertrand. I'll go to Director Freeman and then Director Aguilar.
Is it okay if I ask a quick, kind of a clarifying question to Ethan? Maybe I ask the question and then it's determined whether that question should be answered or not. Or
go ahead.
As I was wanted to ask, so this meeting has been established after talking to stakeholders to verify that they're okay with the time of the meeting, or has this meeting been scheduled and then you're going to start talking to stakeholders about seeing if they're able to come to the meeting?
The 24th has been identified as a date. We're going to put it out to stakeholders. If we hear that that date's not going to work, we'll reschedule. But this is the first get to know you meeting to assemble folks and start the conversation. And I think one of the key aspects of that first meeting is going to be identifying additional people who should be in the room as well. So if we hear that the 24th doesn't work for groups, we'll reschedule. But right now, that's the date we've identified. Thanks for your question.
All right, Director Deschler, is there a question or go ahead?
Yes, my question also is to Ethan. I just wondered what the definition of stakeholders is, and then also is IVRPD a stakeholder, and are they part of this February 24th event?
Thanks for your question. This meeting will be open to all. IVRPD is a targeted group that we want there, like in particular, but meeting is open to all members of the community.
All right, thank you for that. I'll go over to Director Aguilar.
Hi, yeah, so I just wanted to give an update that I have had my first communication with the Goleta Valley Library Advisory Commission. So they let me know of their next few meetings, and I'm looking to be sworn in as one of their commissioners in time for the March 1st meeting. There's a couple of different orientation meetings I'll be having with Allison Gray as the director of Goleta and St. Inez Valley Libraries. So that ball is moving forward, and I'll now be the Library Commission director.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Director Freeman.
Since you talked with them, do you happen to know if there is a February meeting? And if there is a February meeting, am I the person who's supposed to be at that meeting?
There is a February meeting. They did not specify that it would be you. They just said that I'm welcome to come. I just won't officially be one of the commissioners.
So if there is a February meeting and you're not then sworn in, so I imagine then that I need to be at that meeting. They haven't told me about that meeting yet, and sometimes they just arbitrarily cancel them. So
Yeah,
right.
I'll message you what time and everything the meeting is.
Excellent. All right. Anything else by way of director reports? Okay. Next, we have reports from committees. Any committee reports? All right. Report from district council.
Again, just my name's William Ash, standing in for Ross for the next couple of days. Just wanted to say hi. No other report though.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Next, report from general manager.
Hey everybody, so a couple things to highlight from the last 2 weeks. Some of them we've talked about already, like our COVID-19 response. But first is our IVCSD internship after almost a year hiatus is back. We had 50 applicants and we interviewed 17 great applicants, and we ended up deciding to hire 3, and they start on Monday. So Deborah and I are excited to have them come on board because we haven't had interns in a while, and they give us a perspective and things that they're able to accomplish that we can't. So we're happy to have them on first meetings on the 10th and on the 1st, and we'll hope to have them come to the meeting on the 9th at the board meeting to introduce themselves. But they're really amazing, and we're looking forward to having them as our interns. It was really hard to pick. It gets harder every year. Our retreat planning efforts. So this is gonna, it took up some time in the last 2 weeks, and it's gonna really be the biggest focus of mine in the next until the retreat happens. This is our big moment for the year. One thing is, I'm sending you a hefty email today. I was working on it before the board meeting, but it wasn't finished because it just kept getting added to. But it'll be an email that is help catch up some board members on the past retreat items, and also the homework and new items for everybody to look at. I think we talked about it a little bit last time of what's going to be included. So it's all that stuff. And Deborah and I have also been working on developing some tools for the retreat that help the board, fully understand some things at the district. Like, we're going to have a full calendar of upcoming agenda items so that we can really plan out our year in terms of what we want to be discussing and how that aligns with our goals. And also a staff time budget, because time is a resource just like money, and being able to understand how we can spend and change our allocation of staff of time, just like we do with money. So things like that are being developed to help our board members at the retreat in 2 weeks strategize how we're going to move forward for the next year plus. So that's exciting, but it's going to be a good amount of work to get us ready to do that. Myself and Director Freeman and President Brand attended the LAFCO meeting 2 weeks ago to stay aware of what's happening there. I think we had the executive director of LAFCO at our meeting tonight who dropped in. So we're going to keep doing that, like we pledged to do, is attending the LAFCO meetings. Jay has to, but we'll keep going because we want to stay engaged with LAFCO. Deborah and I attended CSDA, the local chapter, yesterday, and it was a great session. We got information about the weather patterns we've been having. And next time, I think it's going to be really exciting, important actually, is our water issues locally. So good to stay in touch with other people, in our profession around town. And it was good to go as our, as regular members. And they were excited to have us. The compost collective. This is actually an important one. I want to give you all an update on, especially since we had to make a big decision in between board meetings, which is we had to close operations of the compost collective 2 weeks ago. The Friday before the 3-day weekend was when we made the decision. We were set to start compost services on the 19th, which was last Tuesday. And because of the spread of COVID-19 and the availability of our staff to be able to complete the shifts for the compost collective, we weren't able to start the program on Tuesday. So we put it on hiatus, the collection, for now, and we've reassigned our dirt riders to do program development work. So, right now they're doing the research of which electric bike to finally purchase with the grant that associate students had given us. So they're doing things like that to help program operations for when they do get back. And yeah, that's all our updates on the Compost Collective. And finally, I just want to say I attended a sexual assault prevention in college communities webinar as part of a conference this morning for something else I'm doing. But I actually did hear about IVCSD getting brought up slightly when talking about UCSB's community partnerships on this topic. So it was good to hear about IVCSD somewhere at a statewide webinar. And I also wanted to mention that Spencer and I worked with Students Against Sexual Assault to get some better information on our website and updated that's more student centric and appealing. So that's up there now, and that's where we're at there. So that's my report. If anyone has any questions, part 2 of this meeting is tomorrow with our IV Master Plan workshop. So we'll see you again pretty soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Jonathan. I see a hand from Director Geis.
Hey, Jonathan, I know your local government financial transaction reports due the 1st. Did you guys get that done?
I'm working on it tomorrow, but it's almost, yeah, I've got it. No worries. We're going to do it early this time. We've been on the last day in the past. We'll get it early in this time.
All right. Any other questions for General Manager from the board? All right. Well, thank you for that update, Jonathan. I think you summed it up best that truly we've got a double header. We haven't had a double header in a while here at the IVCSD, but we will have a special board meeting tomorrow. And I think it's listed as 6 p.m. here on the agenda, but I think that's a typo, 5 p.m., right? All right, I think you're muted, but I think that was a yes.
Yes, it's at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Good. So we will see all of you hopefully here to hear from county staff about the Isla Vista Master Plan. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Made by Freeman, seconded by Geis. Any public comment? Anything from directors? All right, let's do roll call.
All right. Well, my computer's frozen, but I can do it from memory, which is Director Brandt.
Yes.
Flaherty.
Yes.
Bertrand.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Deschler.
Yes.
And Geis.
Yeah.
That's everybody.
All right, motion passes. Everyone, we'll see you here tomorrow at 5.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.